Hey everyone, it's Kristen. Today we're going to be talking about Uncanny X-Men 244, and I like it because it's just kind of silly. It's not like a super serious comic book like we just did a series on God Loves, Man Kills. That was a very serious subject matter, and so I thought I would do something a little bit lighter this time. Um, Basically, on the front, Psylocke's like, no, we survived Inferno. And Dazzler's like, beating Freedom Force, the Sentinels, and Magneto. And then Storm says, but how do we beat the M Squad? And then it says on the bottom, who are they? What are they? Hey, buy the book. This is kind of like a marketing ploy. This was 1989. That some other, comic books did. Like, I remember She-Hulk came out, I believe in the early 90s, and on the cover of her first issue said, hey, if you don't buy this book, I'm going to come to your house and tear up all your X-Men comics. That's kind of what it's reminds me of. Like I said, this is a pretty silly um, comic book, but I wanted to do something a little lighter after such a serious topic last time. And plus, it has a I think a really important um, moment in Rogue's history. It's a very subtle thing, something you don't really think of very often, but it's really important nonetheless. Let's see. So basically, it starts off. This is the introduction of Jubilee. Um, it starts off, at the Hollywood Mall. She basically lives there. She entertains the crowds, with her fireworks and stuff. And the mall cops, try to get rid of her and stuff. See, she's like, she leaps off of the second story of the mall, and they're like, oh my gosh. Apparently she was a great gymnast, and that's what she says. And they're like, oh, what are we supposed to do? And it says, call the M Squad, mutant hunters extraordinaire. So that's who the M Squad are. You'll see more. Okay, so this was kind of funny. Basically, there's a bed flying out the window. It comes at a Dazzler. She blocks it with her lasers, but it's too fast for Storm to evade all the way. So she goes through the window. There's Psylocke taking a bath. And like I said, it's just funny because there's a Psylocke covered in bubbles, and then Storm is in the bathtub with her. And she's like, I'm sorry. I think that's funny. I mean, not very many, you don't have very many moments in this. And so basically Rogue's throwing all the furniture out of her room, and they're like, what the heck's going on? So you can see her room right here. It's very modern, very clean. And she basically says, she, meaning Carol Danvers, because Rogue, absorbed her powers and Seek permanently. So it's basically, in her mind, half Rogue, half Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel now, in there. And she's like, she took over my mind again, my body again, and redecorated my room, And here she is, you can see her. She's crying. She's very upset. And Storm, or Rogue first, asks Psylocke if she can just erase her. She says, you're a telepath. Can't you just get rid of her? Can't you just erase her out of my head? And Psylocke's like, well, that's kind of impossible. I can't even read your thoughts, let alone erase someone else. And Rogue's like, you guys like her all better, than me. And Storm says, stop it, child. It was your decision to attack Carol. Your power that absorbed her physique into yours. And Rogue's like, but it was an accident. And Storm says, be that as it may, that is what happened, for better or worse. For the rest of your lives, you are stuck with each other. And if that proves an inconvenience, then consider it fair punishment for a crime that was itself the next best thing to murder. Ooh, I mean, that's a little harsh, but I get what she's saying. And then, Stanley advertisement. And, you know, Rogue's pretty upset. She's like, I get it. You know, the truth comes out finally. You guys just, you know, you hate me. You haven't forgiven me for my past. And, you know, basically then Carol takes over and she's like, I'm sorry about that, you guys. You know, things were just getting a little out of hand, so I took over. You know, Rogue hasn't been herself with all that she's been through. I mean, Genosha, Inferno, you know, just everything that she's been through. So she's just not been herself. It has been really raw and emotional. Like I said, I like this because it touches on that. You don't hear that much about that in many of the X-Men comics, like the struggle, like the basically dual split personality of Rogue in between these two women. And basically, I just find that aspect of it really interesting. And like I said, they don't talk about that much. This is one of the first issues I can remember. Well, definitely one of the most memorable issues I remember of where the Carol side of her takes over her completely, like takes over her body. That doesn't happen like very often. Like you don't see that. That's another reason why I pulled this one out to talk about. And Dazzler is like, you know, we're under too much stress. We're under too much pressure. You know, we need to do something to let off steam. Let's go shopping. You know, I mean, I personally am not like a huge fan of shopping, but I get it. It's, you know, it's a girl thing. And so they go, Gay Wife takes them to the Hollywood Mall. There they are. And, you know, Dazzler's like, hey, let's do the works. Let's get our hair done, makeup, new clothes. And so there they go. Storm's like, why would you do this? To have people look at you. But they look at me too much already. I don't like it. So anyway, there's Carol in the dress she picked, and, you know, she's saying basically Rogue is going to kill me for this. And there's Psylocke, who you notice was dressed really conservatively before, is dressed, you know, very not conservatively. And they give her a perm because this was, you know, late 80s. So anyway, M Squad arrives in the mall, and we're like, and, you know, talks to the mall cops and says, you know, hey, we'll take care of it. We're experts in this. We got this. And anyway, Dazzler says, okay, now we've gotten new looks, got new clothes, let's party. I'm not sure what she meant by that, but then you find out on the next page and you're like, oh. They go to a gentleman's club. There he is right there. And, you know, Storm's like, everyone's staring. And, you know, Carol, you know, at us or the gent on the stage. Anyway, Dazzler decides it would be fun, you can see her right there, if the guy pulls Storm on stage to dance with him. And Psylocke's like, Allison, have you lost your mind? She'll murder you. Because, you know, tell that. And, you know, Allison's like, I'll take the risk. Don't spoil things. Anyway, so he does. He pulls her on stage. And she's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And then she's like, why not? Because, you know. Anyway. Oh, and one of the funny things they said, or Storm said, you know, Carol says, I've seen better when they enter the gentleman's club or whatever it's called. And Storm says, I've seen far worse. And Dazzler says, Storm, somehow I never quite imagined you ever doing anything nasty. And then Psylocke says, Allison, she wears skin-tight black leather. And Allison says, everyone does that nowadays. I don't think that counts. So anyway, I just thought that was funny that they threw that in there. So basically then the M Squad equipment is reacting to the mutants in the mall, the presence of the mutants, which includes, you know, Jubilee. Their equipment grabs Jubilee, which actually they determine, the X-Men, that is a leftover of Inferno, because Inferno caused all kinds of crazy things to like happen and come out and come alive, basically. And so that's what happened. And the you know, basically them hearing Jubilee like in this explosion, the X-women, they're like, oh my gosh, trouble. You know, of course they jump in to save her. And Storm mentions, you know, no, Psylocke mentions, you know, you wanted to know, Allison, why it is we do what we do. Well, if we weren't here, you know, to help mutants like this, Jubilee, then if we don't stand up for them, who will? So basically, you know, they finally get Jubilee free and basically destroy the equipment. And they go back home, and Jubilee sees that they left the gateway open, and she's like, was it a mistake or was it an invitation? So she follows them back to Australia. Like I said, I just liked that because, you know, you don't see the normal side, so to speak, of the X-Men very often, and I just liked that it was just them, you know, having fun. Like, I thought this was really funny, where Betsy and Storm are in the bathtub, and they're like, oh my gosh. It just, like I said, I liked it because the humor in it, and I also liked it because you don't see that side very often, where Rogue struggles, like, outwardly with the Carol Danvers part of her, well, personality, psyche that she absorbed. And you rarely ever, they haven't taken it in this direction very often, where you see Carol actually physically take over her. This is one of the issues where I encountered it, where I remember encountering it the most and thinking, wow, like, I've never thought about that before. There's actually two separate, distinct personalities in one brain, one mind. And, you know, Carol says, you know, Rogue doesn't like the same food as I do. She doesn't wear the same clothes. Our tastes are totally different. Like, how is that fair to me? And, you know, Rogue, same thing. Like, this is my body. How is that fair to me? That she takes over. She redecorates. You know, she wears clothes that I would never wear. You know, she does her hair the way I would never do it, and etc. So I just found that really interesting. I mean, and that's one of the reasons I like Rogue, is because she's such a complex character. You wouldn't ever, you know, I mean, you think about, I mean, of course there are people in the world that have split personality disorder, but you wouldn't think of, like, Rogue being that way, I guess. And it's just, it's even worse because, like, she not ultimately chose, but kind of, to do that to herself. And just and it's not just, I mean, that's the main personality, but of course she has all these other people that she's absorbed that are, like, kind of floating around in her head. Of course, Carol's a strong presence. Like, it's Rogue and it's Carol. And then there's all these little, like, other little touches or, like, memories of people that she's absorbed. So, I mean, it's just, it's like a constant, like, noise in her head, basically, which, you know, would be crazy. It'd be like a telepath not being able to tune out everyone, like, everyone's thoughts around them. And that's basically what Rogue goes through and struggles with all the time, is that she has just all these people in her head that she can't turn off. And, I mean, I can't imagine not being able to, like, basically be in silence ever, and having to struggle with your own identity and trying to figure out, okay, do I really like sushi, or is that Carol that likes sushi, or is that someone else that likes sushi? I mean, like, I just get this craving for sushi. Like, who is, you know, who is that? Is that me? I mean, I would imagine she, like, questions herself a lot, just trying to figure out, you know, if that really is her, or if that's someone else entirely that she's absorbed. But anyway, I like that issue. I wanted to do something lighter. And also, like, the main focus to me was on Rogue and just her struggle, so I thought that was cool. So anyway, I hope you join me for the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.